Yeah, welcome to another episode of Get Paid, your one-stop shop for all things fantasy, gambling, and daily fantasy. We are proud partners of Underdog Podcasts. You can also find us on Podcast One. And everybody, you can find us on YouTube. It's youtube.com/theunderdog. The network is really taking shape. I'm excited. It's starting to get traction. A lot of people outside of this show network are starting to watch these things, so it's really cool. Brad, you were listening to Sean and Brad, by the way. Brad, how you doing?
I'm great, man. It's a great week. Green Bay looks fantastic, and I feel good about it.
They do, man. And let me tell you something. So we're talking about Week 8 lines this week, doing these game previews that have become so popular. Which again, thanks for everybody's support, Brad. I've been on Bovada Sportsbook today, looking at the lines. I had a bad Week 3 and Week 4. I was really bad. And then everything else I've been really good. So it's really like I think I'm sitting at like 56% for the year. And again, that's about usual. It's a good number. It's above the pay line, but it's not the 60%, which I try to hold myself accountable to for the show. But the first 2 weeks of the season, I was 70%. Weeks 3 and 4 is abysmal. And then, as usual, usually I start to get better week 4. As usual, week 5, week 6, week 7, things start to get better. This week, though, including the weeks that I was abysmal, this week is the first week where I look at the games and I can't find more than 2 that I like. It's gonna be rough. I'm curious to get your thoughts on these games because. Yeah, man, it's crazy. But before we get rolling with the games, I do have 2 gripes that I want to bring up, 2 gear grinders, Brad. Yep. One is, I already texted you about this. So we took an end on the Pick 6 podcast, which we were 4-2 this week, Brad, on the Pick 6, and we're at 59.5%. So we're close to that 60% marker that we were at last year, which is good. It's good to rebound. It's good that we're there this quickly. We'll probably hit like 65% of the year if I had to guess. But the San Francisco game, that slop game in Washington. Then the line had been bet down. It was 10 when we talked about this last week. It got bet down to 9.5. So I was like, San Francisco's going to get that 10. They won the game by 9 points, which that's not my gripe. My gripe was that Kyle Shanahan, with about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, had all 3 timeouts in complete control of the game. Well, I shouldn't say complete control because at that point it was 6-0. Throws the ball. Bourne, their wide receiver, catches the ball. It slides around, because it's like everybody's playing on the slip and slide there. Slides around. I don't think a Washington defender touched him. He gets up, rolls into the end zone. The officials mark him down at like the 5-yard line or something. And Kyle Shanahan runs the play clock all the way down, obviously trying to figure out if he's going to challenge or not. Then takes a timeout. At that point, you have all your challenges. You're in complete control of the game at that point because you're at the 5-yard line. You're about to make it a 2-possession game regardless. Throw the freaking challenge flag.
Throw the challenge.
There's
your timeout.
That has happened to me 3 or 4 times this year, and that makes a big difference, especially because I use the San Francisco 49ers in my big pick'em contest where I pick 5 games every week. I needed that victory, and it should have been a victory. That bugged me. And then another game, gear grinder for me, Brad, which isn't a gear grinder for you, is the Oakland-Green Bay game. And I have a bone to pick with Derek Carr. Now, I thought that Green Bay would win. I thought that Oakland would cover. I thought they had a chance to actually upset. And we did this thing. If you're listening to the podcast, you probably don't know this if you're listening on like Apple or something like that. But what I did one of these last week. I'm going to probably do like 6 or 7. I do a deep dive into the game. And Brad, I don't even think you know about this. So after our podcast, after we have our game previews, which we air, I did a deep dive into the Green Bay-Oakland game, and I basically predicted the game plan like verbatim. The only thing I didn't predict was that David Carr was going to turn the ball over twice in the freaking red zone. 28 points a swing. 28 points a swing from Derek Carr. Yeah. So those are my 2 gear grinders.
He played good otherwise.
Other than those, I mean...
The O-line of Oakland is very good because Green Bay barely got to him. And we have a good
they didn't
pass
even
rush.
have their best. They didn't even have Trent Brown. I think he was out. So
he had a lot of time to throw, and when he has a lot of time, he can ball. He played good other than those moments.
Yeah, and Gruden did what I thought he would do is just basically run Josh Jacobs down the throat of Green Bay. You're not going to beat Green Bay, passing deep. You got to run the ball and then do play action. Green Bay did what I thought they would do. Well, actually, I wasn't sure. Actually, we texted about this, Brad. I said, Green Bay is, they're a good running team, but Oakland has a good running defense. And I thought, is LaFleur the type of – because I didn't know. Is LaFleur the type of head coach that's really just going to stick with the run, the entire game and be
Stick
stubborn
with the plan
about it.
and just be stubborn about it. And this is what we do.
Yeah.
I think he's far more flexible than that. That was McCarthy's problem.
Yes.
This is what we do, and this is what we're going to do because we do it well. Whereas, of course, Belichick will just win and beat you any which way that works in that day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like more coaches adopt that
I know.
philosophy, and I don't know why not.
Yeah. I gotta say, and LaFleur, he impressed me, and just going right to Aaron Rodgers, which that's an easy thing to do. You know, it's not like you're going to I don't know, take your pick, whoever, you know, whatever crummy quarterback you want to say to throw the ball deep.
He's not splitting the atom on that one.
You know, you're not going to Eli Manning and asking him to throw 60 passes. You're going to Aaron Rodgers. It's a difference.
Going to Aaron Rodgers.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not the bravest of decisions,
But hey,
that
man,
being said,
he deviated and it worked, man.
Yeah.
So Aaron Rodgers looked great, but anyway, let's get it. We got a full slate, 15 games. It's going to be a lot of work for us today to get through these things. So let's just dig right in. Thursday night football, primetime television, Brad. Primetime television. Washington.
Is it though? Is it?
Yeah.
Does Thursday night count?
I think so. It's nationally televised. It's
Okay.
one of the top, I think, 10 TV
Okay.
shows. So I mean, I believe so. But it's Washington at Minnesota. Bovada has the line at Washington plus 16 at Minnesota. Brad, what do you think? Adam Thielen, by the way, is extremely doubtful with a hamstring pull.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that changes things. Well, Kirk Cousins on a bit, primetime moment. You got to go Washington, man.
I agree with you. He
is humming, though. He is humming. He's playing well.
And right when we decided to start talking garbage about Kirk Cousins, we got
Right
Kirk,
when everyone
man.
says Kirk Cousins is such a jerk.
He starts looking like a freaking MVP candidate. So hey, good for Kirk, good for Minnesota.
10 touchdowns, 1 pick in the past 3 games, right?
Yeah, man.
Just on fire.
He is on fire. Now that's going to hurt a little bit. So they're going to have Stephon Diggs. Norris, I believe, will play for Washington. Again, my beef with Washington all year is that they don't have coverage for the second and third wide receiver. Well, now that primary coverage rolls over to Stephon Diggs. I don't know. I mean, I think Minnesota, like last week in San Francisco, I think Minnesota is going to win comfortably in this game. I don't see how Washington's going to be able to score against this Minnesota defense. I think Washington will somehow eke a touchdown out, but I don't see Minnesota covering this game. But I do see them winning. 16 points.
Minnesota has a really great roster. That's a good team.
Their weakness is their weakness this season had been Kirk Cousins, and now Kirk Cousins is playing like we're used to seeing him play, at least statistically speaking. Let's see if he can win a nationally televised game. This is the more junior of these games. It's not the Sunday night or the Monday night, but it is a nationally televised game. It's not a gotta-have-it game, but it is a pressure game for him, though, because he wants to stick it to Washington. So
Yes.
I think Minnesota wins comfortably. 16 points is a lot of spread to me. I see this as like a 10-point game, give or take.
I could see them controlling the entire thing, but winning by 13, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, absolutely. So we're both on Washington to cover, both on Minnesota to win. From a fantasy point of view, I'm looking through. I think that I don't know if Chris Thompson's playing. If not, Wendell Smallwood might be the guy, the slot, receiver out of the backfield type running back. I think Adrian Peterson, although I like him moving forward, and Washington's certainly running with him, I don't think he's going to do well against Minnesota, his former team, which is interesting. I'm looking at the receivers. I don't like McLaurin. I don't like Paul Richardson for Washington. For Minnesota, I think Cousins is a borderline start. I think he can do better than him, although I hope everybody's picked him up and stashed him on waiver wire because he's going to be good. I just don't like this matchup. Dalvin Cook is a huge start. I would have said Thielen's a start, but otherwise I'll say Stephon Diggs is a start. And whoever that second receiver is for Minnesota, I mean, we'll see how the injury report and everything shakes out. He could be a start, or maybe it's Kyle Rudolph. Check back with my start and sit and my touchdown predictor later in the week. That's a YouTube special. Okay, Brad, moving it on. We have the next game. Arizona, according to Bovada, plus 8.5 at New Orleans with Drew Brees now questionable, Brad. He's returning to practice. He's questionable.
I think that no matter who's starting, whether it's Drew Brees or Teddy Bridgewater, I've seen great things out of Arizona. I think they go into New Orleans, which is an extremely tough place to play. I think New Orleans may be the best team in the NFC, and I think they meet their match, and they just kind of have a rough one, in my opinion.
You think Arizona has a tough one, so you're taking New
I
Orleans?
think yes. I think Arizona has a tough day. I think they get knocked back down to earth, and it's a learning experience for them. That's my intuition.
Well, for me, 8.5 is a lot. Like, I think Arizona is still undervalued a little bit. Their offense is good. What's that guy's name there? Cliff Cleveland, Kirkpatrick there.
Yeah,
Kingsbury, Kirkpatrick.
Close.
Kirkpatrick. Yeah, close. Whiff. No, Kingsbury. Yeah. So I like him. I like what Arizona's doing. But here's to me is like 8.5 seems like a lot. I'm assuming Breeze will not play this week. 8.5 to me is a lot. Here's how I think the game's going to go, though. I think New Orleans is in control this whole game. I think they improved to 7-1. Will it be? I can't remember if they've had their bye yet. I know they have one loss. I think they're 6-1 now. I think New Orleans gets to 7-1. If I'm New Orleans, frankly, I'm resting Breeze because there's no rush to start him at this point. You know what you have. Let Bridgewater. He's been doing exceptionally well. Remember, everybody was hoping that New Orleans would go 3-3. Right, with Bridgewater, and he's gone 6-0, 5-0, or something like that. I like New Orleans to cover if Breeze plays. Arizona, if Bridgewater's a starting quarterback, I like them to cover that 8.5 line. So to me, it's just a matter of who starts at quarterback. I like Arizona.
I think you're very wrong about this one.
Yeah?
It's not too often I say that. I think you're very wrong, man. New Orleans is hype, dude, and it's rowdy.
Dude, they're good.
And they are rolling.
They're good.
They're good, and that stadium that's Who Dat Nation, boy, and they get loose in there. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be very, very tough for Kyler Murray to go in there and have any type of success. It's just a strong feeling.
I agree with that. Here's the difference, though. So New Orleans, I've been talking up their defense all year, and I love them. And this is going to be I'm going to be doing a deep dive in this one. So if you're catching this on YouTube, you just make sure to check out. Depending on when you catch this, there's going to be a video in the top right hand side of your screen at the end. I'm going to go into the deep dive and do the prediction, the game plan prediction, and all that. A little bit later in the week. But I think that this offense, this Arizona offense, neutralizes slightly this pass rush. And when I say neutralize, I mean we're talking just in terms of covering the 8.5. Brad, you and I completely agree that New Orleans is going to win this game. Right. But, Kyler Murray gets rid of the ball quickly, okay? This New Orleans pass rush is, they're so good, especially when they can force 3-and-outs, okay? Lattimore is going to match up really well against Larry Fitzgerald, assuming that's, who he's going to be covering. I would assume so. Christian Kirk, I don't know if he's going to be back. So, what does that mean? David Johnson's been banged up, but Chase Edmonds looks really good. I think this quick passing game neutralizes the pass rush slightly for New Orleans. I think this is like a 30-20 game, whereas another offense that would come in there, and we predicted that New Orleans would shut down the Bears last week, and they did, except for those ridiculous onside kicks and kind of late touchdowns. I think Arizona is handled, but they can score against New Orleans, whereas I think a lot of other offenses are going to have tough sledding. So, again, Bridgewater, if he's starting, and it's not a slight to Bridgewater, I think he's fantastic too, and definitely an NFL starter. I just think it's right on that line for me. 8.5 is too much. I'm curious to see where the sharp guys are going to bet this line down to by the time we do our Pick 6 podcast. But, yeah, man, I don't feel great about it. I can tell you that. Right. There's a lot of hemming and hawing for me this week. I'm not going to put my money on this one. 11-4 last week, Brad. I was, by the way.
Wow, fantastic, man. That's incredible.
Yeah, I was. And then I was 10-3 last week, and then 9-4. I'm on a big hot streak. This week is
that's great, dude. Good for you.
This week is tough. Fantasy wise, let's see. I do not have Murray as a start. I think Chase Edmonds or David Johnson's a start, depending on who plays there. Larry Fitzgerald is a start for New Orleans. Nobody else for Arizona. For New Orleans, I like Bridgewater or Breeze, whichever one. I like Kamara if he plays. If not, I love Latavius Murray. And then Michael Thomas, and I don't really like anybody else for New Orleans. Okay, moving it on, Brad. Cincinnati plus 13 at the L.A. Rams. A lot of big lines this week, dude. A lot of big lines.
And I don't like the big lines.
Me neither. Really, and there's a lot of them this week. Our pick 6 is going to be tough because we're going to have to eat. We're going to have to swallow some points or something, or take some.
I
bad
just
teams.
Never feel comfortable swallowing points, right? And I'm not going to do it this time. Mm-hmm. You know what?
I know it's tough, right?
It's so tough, man. Because Cincinnati is the worst. They're the worst out in the league, right?
I agree.
And and that their top players are looking to jump ship. AJ Green, I think, is he still looking to get out of there? I don't know, but
well, he's doubtful anyway, so he's not going to play.
And he's doubtful anyway. Yeah. So man, maybe sometimes you gotta be a little bold and swallow some points. The Rams, let's just say the Rams will feast on them and right the ship, at least for the time being.
I agree with you. I'm on that. I wrote down 27-9. The Rams, they're a little bit of a different team with Jalen Ramsey there. They have some juice. Cincinnati can't get the running game going against anybody. Now the Rams, pass defense is fortified. So, Tyler Boyd, is he drawing Jalen Ramsey in coverage? That's not good. So what? You're looking at Andy Dalton. Can he hit Auden Tate and Erickson for heavy yardage against the rest of this Rams coverage? I don't see it. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to have a tough time scoring points. They're in LA, which LA is not the biggest home field advantage for either the Chargers or the Rams, but at least the Rams don't have to deal with a hostile environment. They played okay last week the Rams did against Atlanta, but everybody plays well against Atlanta. I'd like to see Todd Gurley play a little bit better. But, there's a lot of factors. There's the McVay going away from the run. There's the offensive line being banged up. I think Goff will play well. Again, 13 points is a lot to lay, but I think this is a comfortable Rams victory. 13 points is a lot to lay down.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's against Cincinnati, it's not that much, right?
Yeah.
I've taken a little bit of a shift just now. I don't think that's a lot for Los Angeles at all.
Yeah, I'm always talking about one-dimensional teams, and Cincinnati, they can't. Joe Mixon last week had 4 yards of offense, 2 yards passing, receiving, 2 yards running. Yikes. Cincinnati, and I'm out on Zach Taylor. I'm just out on him. I've been out on him for a couple weeks. He needs to go. Okay, Cincinnati, I'm looking. Tyler Boyd, you could start, and you can start Auden Tate. I think he's the better of the receivers to start this week, and this is assuming A.J. Green does not play. If A.J. Green does play, I think he's the start. For the Rams, Goff is a borderline start. I think Gurley gets in the end zone, so I say he's a start. I actually think Cooper Kupp is the best of the receivers this week by far, and Gerald Everett could be another touchdown candidate. I'm not in love with anybody else, but I know if you have Robert Woods, you're going to start him. I do not have Brandon Cooks as a start. Okay, Brad, moving it on. I can't believe we took Rams minus 13 there. Moving it on, Brad, we have the Chargers +4 at Chicago.
Wow. Freaking Chicago, man. Jesus. I had never seen an offense so bad.
It's Trubisky, man. It's the Trubisky factor.
I watched that entire game. I'd never seen anything like that. And I remember there was one play where, they were getting booed all day. The offense was so bad they were getting booed.
Oh, I didn't know that because I had them on my second TV, so I didn't have the sound on that one.
They were absolutely getting booed, and they were moving nowhere but backwards. And then there was one play where Trubisky, had time, and he's like, screw it, let's air it out. He throws it into triple coverage. Triple coverage. And the only it was like, what, dude? That's the best you got? When he first chucks it, right? It is funny. When he first chucked it, you're like, oh, here we go. They're going to, there's going to be one-on-one. Some guy's going to bring this down. The game's going to get going. 3 guys. And the only reason that they didn't get intercepted is because the 2 ran into each other like Larry and Moe.
And then,
you know what I mean?
And the game was so out of hand that the defensive backs that ran into each other got up and they were laughing about it.
Yeah, they were laughing at each other.
They were laughing.
Damn, dude, that was so easy for me. It was easier for me, dog. Get out of my way, right? That's exactly what they were saying.
I know.
Each was saying how easy it was for them to grab that thing.
It was so bad.
It was so bad.
It was so bad. And what's unfortunate, and I know we have a lot of Chicago Bears fans that watch these games, and they're always talking about their defense, especially on YouTube. They're talking, what about the Rams? Because we were talking up the New Orleans defense, and you and I, and again, this isn't about what teams we like the most and all that stuff. This is about winning money, and New Orleans just matched up well against Chicago, and Trubisky is the problem in Chicago. And by the way, not to rub salt in the wound, but you know how fan bases are. They're like, oh, Trubisky, and then they'll throw out the stats at you. But you just watch the game, you're like, this guy's not going to win a Super Bowl. It's not going to happen unless the defense holds every game. What did I text you, Brad? I said Chicago fans, they want to win every game 3-0, right? I mean, that's
and they think that's possible.
They think that's possible, but
right.
You see it. When the defense, and we saw it against Oakland, and I think that the travel to London had a big big deal, or was a big deal. I think the offense or the defense came out a little flat. If the defense comes out a little flat, Chicago can't win, because Trubisky can't hit open receivers. And there were times, this offense is not the problem. Like, Nagy's like drawing up good plays. You can see, like, there were probably 3 or 4 intermediate, deeper kind of passes that had a wide receiver wide open, and Trubisky overthrown. He missed. That's a problem. And I watched this for years with Washington, especially during the Shanahan years. And specifically, I think there was the Joe Gibbs year where they had Mark Brunell, and then the Shanahan year where they had Donovan McNabb, and the receivers were just streaking wide open, and neither one of those two quarterbacks could hit open receivers. And if your starting quarterback can't hit open receivers, this league's too good. This league is too good to let you off the hook with that. So Chicago's defense, they're awesome. Usually I say it's the defense that's letting down the quarterback. Now it's the quarterback that's letting down the defense. This is the same reason why last year the wheels kind of fell off with Jacksonville, because Bortles and whoever couldn't keep the defense off the field. Let that awesome defense rest a little bit. The running game, I was out on David Montgomery anyway. I don't think he's the right fit. You got a guy like Jay Ajayi out there in free agency who has proven his ability to just run straight ahead through the tackles. Sign that guy and let him run.
Let me ask you this, Sean. Do you think it's a possibility that one day soon we see Cam Newton taking snaps in a Chicago Bears uniform?
That would be a great fit.
That'd be good for them, yeah. That'd be really good for them.
Yeah, because you and I were texting, and I said, I think Teddy Bridgewater is the starter for the Tennessee Titans next year. Although we'll get to them in a bit. Tennessee, I liked what Tannehill brought to them. We'll talk about them in a few games. But Bridgewater is going to be a starter next year. I don't think that's the greatest fit for Chicago. Cam Newton would be a fantastic fit for them, I think. Perfect fit.
He wouldn't have to do too much. He's just athletic enough to keep the chains moving just enough for that team.
Mm-hmm. They need a tough yard. He'll get you the tough yard.
Yeah,
fit. That opens up your Super Bowl window. Trubisky,
that's assuming that Carolina is over Cam Newton, and I don't know if they are, but
I think
I don't know his.
I think they
you
are.
think so?
I think Kyle Allen's winning games. I think who's the most popular guy on the team? It's the backup quarterback. I think Cam Newton is expendable this year for Carolina. Just based on the way that franchise is moving forward.
Do you know the status of his contract?
I don't know the contract. I know that he's still dealing with the Liz Frank injury, and after bye week, they announced that Kyle Allen's going to be the starter for the foreseeable future while Newton is rehabbing. Now, we could be wrong about this. Is just me and you calling it, so who the heck knows? But man, that'd be a great fit for Chicago. A better fit than Bridgewater. In my opinion.
Yes, I agree.
But yeah, they got to move on from Trubisky. I'm sorry, Chicago. It's true. By the way, Chicago, you traded. What was it, a second or a third round pick to move up one spot for a team that wasn't going to pick him anyway, and Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were both available.
Okay, yes, right. All right, so, but that's never going to change, right? Like, that happened. They did that. It was a mistake. People make mistakes. The best people in this league don't know how to draft, right? It's difficult. But that doesn't mean you have to keep compounding it by sticking with him. No. This is our guy. He's gonna finally. No, he's not your guy.
Yep.
So you're gonna two wrongs try to make a right.
Yep.
Your ego, and you're gonna get in the way.
That's
of your
what
own
it
success.
is. That's what it is.
Right.
It's the same people that were giving me and giving us grief, Brad, before the season for Tennessee when we were saying Mariota isn't the starter. When are you going to just give it to Tannehill? When are you going to do it? It's going to happen at some point. Just do it now. And we got a lot of grief for that one. But over time, and it's not us. Like, it's not me saying, "Hey, we're right," and pounding our chest or anything. It's just you watch the games, and I do watch every game. Like, what a Super Bowl winning.
See.
Like Dak Prescott, like he gets a lot of grief. Dak Prescott's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Even that one play against the Saints where they got dominated that whole game, Brad. That one play, I'm just like, you can win a Super Bowl with that guy.
So it's funny you say that because Trubisky and Prescott are kind of similar to where
Agreed.
They need other guys around them, but Dak is definitely different.
Yes.
It's like Trubisky,
and it's a very
plus.
It's a nuance. Yeah. It's a very slim
Sure.
nuance. So I know again, Chicago people watching this, you're saying, Dak Prescott's garbage. Trubisky's just as good. I know there's going to be out there people thinking that, but I'm telling you, watch every single game like I do. You can see it, man. You can see it. So, gosh, Chicago. I live in Chicagoland. I shaved my beard because too many people were throwing tomatoes at me in the car.
It made me so happy.
So, who are you taking, by the way? Are you taking the Chargers? Or are you taking...
Sorry, that's a great question. What's the line?
The line was +4. Chargers +4 at Chicago.
Oh my God, I have no idea. Let's go Chargers. I think they lose by 3. I think maybe this game the Bears win 9-6.
Yeah.
Chicago gets their wish.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I'm taking the Chargers as well. This is the one game that I actually had some unity in my computer algorithms and my pick. I think there's 3 of those this week. It's a tough week. Let's see, Chargers. I'm looking at fantasy. Don't love Rivers this week. I think Smelvin Gordon after that stupid goal line fumble.
Dude, what was that?
That was one of my.
On.
Did I say it was 11-4? That was one of my losses. That was weak. After coming out and calling out the coaching staff saying he wants the ball more.
You get your ass in there.
Let me say this: Chicago has a in my opinion, massive coaching advantage in this game. Massive coaching advantage in this game. I don't like what the Chargers coaching staff. I've been kind of they have so much talent, they just can't get enough out of this talent. It's crazy to me. But anyway, I think Gordon and Eckler are both starts. I think Keenan Allen's a start. Nobody else. For Chicago, I think this is a week. If David Montgomery's ever going to find the end zone, this is the week. Allen Robinson, I think, has a nice game, and I don't really like anybody else, including Tarek Cohen. I don't really like anybody else. That's enough of that game, Brett. Let's move it on. We got we got the Giants +7 at Detroit. 7. I know, man. I'm just like, come on, can't you give me 4.5 on that one? Why does it have to be 7?
I know.
So tough.
Detroit, dude. I mean, did you see Stafford's? He was the quickest to 40,000 yards in history, or something like that.
Yeah. Another
meaningless
Stafford stat.
How could this say again?
Another meaningless Stafford stat.
Another meaningless stat, but it should mean something, should it not?
Now you put Stafford in Chicago, I think they win games.
Okay,
that's going
to
break the hearts of any Chicago fans watching. You put Stafford on that team, they can win some games. Trubisky's garbage. Is anybody really out there? Sorry, for people watching this segment on YouTube. I know we're talking Detroit here, but we're following up on our Fuller podcast here. Can anybody make the argument that Trubisky is not the worst quarterback in the NFC North? Mm-hmm. Can anybody make that argument? No.
I mean, come on. I don't think so.
By far. Anyway, back to the game. Yeah, man. I'm with you, man. I have Detroit winning by 8, but 7 points to lay down. It's too much for me to bet on, but I'm with you. I'm picking Detroit. What do you do, man? This is a tough.
It is tough. That's a toughie. Week. Yeah, that's a toughie.
Fantasy wise, Daniel Jones is not a start. Saquon Barkley, you got to start him every week. I actually like both receivers, Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate. And I like Evan Ingram, assuming he's healthy. Evan Ingram broke my heart this week. Just not catching the touchdown pass. It went to Red Ellison. Detroit, I have Stafford to start. Kerryon Johnson's hurt, so you're going to want to pick up Ty Johnson and start him. He's doubtful this week, Kerryon Johnson. Marvin Jones, look, I don't think he's going to catch 4 touchdowns this week. I think Galladay actually gets more touchdowns, but I do have Jones as a start, although that 4-touchdown game is skewing the stats a little bit. Hawkinson is not a start, so I don't really like anybody else in that game. Let's just move on, man. That's a tough one. That's a tough one for us this week.
Okay.
The Jets spread +6, according to Bovada, at Jacksonville.
Boy, did they get their little heinies pounded last night.
Yeah, it was funny. So I can't remember if that was a text with the 3 of us, me, you, and the Wolf of Tarpon Springs, our friend Brian. We were kind of going back and forth about that, and Brian liked the Jets. And one thing that one of my betting rules, and Brian is separate.
Brian liked the Jets last night?
Brian liked the Jets last night. Now, Brian is big on don't bet against a home dog when you're playing a division opponent. He's big on that. And I like that rule. But one rule for that trumps, and this is what I said to Brian, was never bet against Bill Belichick when he has more time to game plan than the other coach, or at least more than 1 week. You just don't do it. His percentage is 80 to 90% covering. It doesn't matter what the line is. And I did not like that 10-point spread, but that's one of my rules. If Bill Belichick is off a bye week or off a Thursday night game, or going into a Super Bowl, you just don't bet against them. Yeah,
you get a pretty good rule.
You get bit 1 out of every 10 times. Sure, I got bit on that Philadelphia New England Super Bowl, but I made a lot of money on those bets. I mean, it just always works. So, but anyway, yeah, the Jets looked bad, but I called it. I mean, you're playing the Patriots defense, which I'm sorry might be the best defense that they've had ever. This defense is incredible.
It's great.
It's incredible. And the stat, they've showed some stat about how the Patriots are allowing 8 points a game. Don't forget that the Patriots gave up like 3 touchdowns on special teams and on like offensive turnovers into the end zone. So the defense is actually allowing less points than that.
Did I see that the defense has only let up 3 touchdowns all season?
That sounds about right.
Is that not the most insane thing you ever heard?
Yeah, halfway through the season, 3 touchdowns.
That's insanity. I heard Booger McFarland say it, and
in
I
91
thought,
possessions.
I must have heard that.
So they're close to probably 100 possessions in it's 3% of the opponent's percentages, give or take a couple of percentage points there, or tenths of percentage points. 3% of the possessions end up in a touchdown for the Patriots. How can anybody bet against the Patriots?
I don't know.
Anyway, but we're talking about the Jets, though. So the Jets, I thought that they were going to have a tough game. I wasn't going to freak out. I thought that they would do well against Dallas. They did. I thought that they would do poorly against New England. They did. Okay. The Jets. What was the other stat? I think it's been now 15 quarters since the New York Jets have scored a touchdown against the New England Patriots on offense.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Anyway,
who are the Jets playing again? I'm sorry.
The Jags. So it's Jets plus 6 at Jacksonville.
Jets plus 6 at Jacksonville. I like Jacksonville in this one. I do.
Yeah. Jacksonville.
Jets off a short week. Jacksonville, ferocious defense as well, right? I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
Their defense still has that swag, does it not?
Yeah, I mean, I think losing Jalen Ramsey hurts it a little bit, but Jacksonville covered fairly easily against Cincinnati this week, which is one of our pick 6 wins, actually, Brad. Yeah, Jacksonville, I think, like Arizona, I think Jacksonville, they're not a sexy team, but they're good against the spread, man. They're undervalued, I think, in betting circles. I'm actually going to take the Jets in this one. 6 is a lot for me in this game. I think it's a close Jacksonville victory. I think Jacksonville, I wouldn't even say that Jacksonville wins comfortably. I think this is going to be kind of a down to the wire thing. I personally wrote down Jets 18, Jags 20. My computers like Jacksonville, Brad. They agree with you. I'm going to take the Jets. This is more of a leap of faith thing for me. Maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know. Feel free to comment if you're a Jacksonville fan and tell me why I'm an idiot. I'd love to hear it. For the New York Jets, I have Darnold as a sit. I have Le'Veon Bell as a play. I have Robbie Anderson as a play. I have Jamison Crowder as a play. For the Jaguars, I have Gardner Minshew as a sit. Usually I have him as a start. I have him as a sit this week. I think Fournette has a great game. I think DJ Chark has a really nice game. And there's a potential for D.D. Westbrook to get in the end zone as well. It's interesting to have 2 wide receivers as starts and Gardner Minshew as a sit, but, so it goes sometimes. I think it's going to be low yardage, maybe 2 touchdowns, and then those touchdowns go to the receivers. All right, Brad, let's move it. We got, what are we? We're about halfway through here. We got Oakland. This is a very interesting game to me. Oakland got beat down pretty good by Green Bay, but we said that, actually Derek Carr and the running game played well. It was just a couple of Derek Carr turnovers, was the issue in that game in terms of covering the spread. We have Oakland plus 7 at Houston, who has lost Will Fuller to a hamstring injury, although it looks like Stills is pretty good there in relief. So these teams are relatively healthy. I'm not sure if Trent Brown's going to play yet. We'll look at that later in the week, and we'll also do a deep dive like we did for the Oakland game last week. But anyway, Brad, Oakland, once again, plus 7 at Houston.
Oakland plus 7 at Houston. I like Oakland in this one. It seems like Houston's always in the closest games of the weekend, does it not?
Yeah.
Right. They're always battling, and it's always a super tight one. Comes down to a field goal or some miraculous stuff. I think it's gonna be nice and close. I don't see anything wrong with Oakland.
No.
Like we thought they were gonna be like a
dumpster fire.
A dumpster fire,
We
just
did.
terrible. Like the doors are gonna come off. And I think we did a little bit of disservice to John Gruden.
We did, certainly. We're eating crow on that.
We're eating crow for sure, and
Yeah.
we can admit it, and we're eating it right now. And for some reason, we were treating him like he's some type of joke. Or out of touch.
Yeah, that's what it was. I thought he would be out of touch. I always thought that the Antonio Brown trade was oil and water, and I thought that was going to be like a cancer on this team. And in Oakland,
he traded Khalil Mack, so that made him look a little stupid.
And I think history still proves us right on that.
Yes, that doesn't change things, but that doesn't mean he can't coach.
You're right.
He was always a good coach, from what I remember. I don't ever remember like ever being bad at it.
No, no, no. And so here's a deal with, in my opinion, with Gruden. So like, and Mayock and the leadership there is they did the absolute right thing. Is they ate it and they said, you know what, we made a mistake trading for Antonio Brown. He's a loose cannon. We thought we could make it work. We didn't. I know we lost a draft pick, but let's just get rid of him because he's bad for the team. And once they did that, I think that galvanized the roster.
I think it did. I think that brought everyone together and that said, we don't need this prick.
Mm-hmm.
We can handle our business, and we are going to.
And let me just say this as anybody out there who has a job, right? And, Brad and I were career types. Well, I wouldn't call Brad a career type, but I was a career type for a while.
Slacker.
Yeah, Brad was a slacker. Brad was a slacker. We worked on the same team, but I love Brad because Brad made me look good, and he helped further my career just by showing up every day.
I'm good for you for that, baby.
Yeah. It's why you take me to the bars because I make you look good with my physical appearance.
We pay each other back.
There you go. But no, like Gruden, like what that shows at Oakland, it shows a couple of things. Oakland, the team, it's like, this guy's a distraction. He's been a distraction all year. He's very talented, but you know what? We're not going to deal with that. That's not what we're going to do as a team. Get rid of him. And what does that do? That immediately makes the rest of your players think, okay, I'm going to be held accountable if I'm full of crap. I mean, it's. I think from a leadership point of view, it's good. I also like from a leadership point of view. I thought the trade was stupid, but being willing and having basically the balls to say and go to your ownership and say, look, yeah, I know we gave the contract. I can't remember what the guaranteed money was. I know that's actually going to be in litigation anyway. But we gave the contract, we gave the picks. We were wrong. Let's just admit that we're wrong now and move on. And to
what else it says, Sean, is. I know we had the Hard Knocks here. They had the Hard Knocks there, right?
Yeah, right.
We are not a farce. We are not a circus. Mm-hmm. We are not some type of show, and people are not going to be throwing peanuts at our outtakes and antics. Yeah. We are a real football team, and we're here to ball out. And we don't need this bullshit gone. Yep. Let's suit up and let's do it. And you're right. I think that brought everybody together.
Mm-hmm. And Derek Carr, one of my things coming into the season too is, hey, look, Derek Carr, when they had Amari Cooper, which also, by the way, I think was a bad move trading him away.
Yes,
yeah,
right.
But
was he upset there? Was he not happy there? Was that the deal?
I don't really know what happened there. I think it was a personality thing with Gruden, and that was kind of fueling our being down on them this year. But they're winning. Right. They're winning with. If they had Cooper and Mack instead of what they did in the draft this year, I think they'd be even better. But that said, I mean, we like what this team is doing, and the bottom line is Gruden has a group of guys now that are buying into him. And that's so important. And the one thing I've just really been impressed with is Oakland starts like every game fast. And so what does that mean to me? That means, one, the game plans are good on both sides. Paul Guenther, by the way, is an underrated guy. He was running the defense in Cincinnati underneath Marvin Lewis for years. So they have good coaching staff, and they have good game plans. Gruden always seems, and what really impresses me is he was out of the game for 10 years or something like that, doing announcing, whatever it was. And like when Joe Gibbs came back after a similar amount of time to Washington, the game had passed him by. But John Gruden, just by being and doing these, these Gruden things during the draft, and he's always studying tape because he was the Monday Night Football guy, he came in and the game hadn't passed him by. You could see, even in that Packers loss, you could see the power of that scheme. They didn't have their wide receivers. They're all banged up. The tight ends were looking rowdy in that game. He's scheming guys open. And, man, I'm just impressed by this team, even though the record doesn't show it. I think they're undervalued. I'm going to take – I actually think this is a very, very close cover. I think Houston wins close. But it would not shock me in the least to see Oakland pull this game off. It really wouldn't. Because they're going to stop the run, and it's going to come down to who can outduel each other, Derek Carr or Deshaun Watson. If Watson throws 1 to 2 interceptions, like if Oakland can force a couple turnovers, Oakland will win the game.
But, dude, there is nothing wrong with Oakland. Like, they are in no way like a subservient product or –
I'm really impressed. I'm definitely eating crow from and just like Buffalo this year, we were down on. We were like, for the most part, Brad, I would say we're probably we're right on maybe 28 of the 32 teams, but Buffalo was one, and Oakland is definitely another one. We're eating crow there, and I like what Oakland's doing, and they're building what I call a program. I'm saying the same thing about Indianapolis. that the coaching staff that they have, when you get the right group of guys with the coach, and Derek Carr now being able to take deep shots, which he wasn't doing last year, is a completely different team. Completely different team. Let's talk about Houston for a little bit, by the way.
Yep.
Because this is becoming an Oakland, thing. Houston, I like quite a bit too. But you're right, man. They play in a lot of like close games. Deshaun Watson is, there's a lot of talk about Russell Wilson. Deshaun Watson could easily be the MVP, especially with Mahomes going to be missing a few weeks now.
Well, that's an interesting conversation. Who do you think is the MVP so far?
So far, I would say Russell Wilson, although it wasn't a good look to see what Baltimore did to him last week. But again, that's something we disagreed on that. That's something I was kind of anticipating. So when I anticipate kind of a tougher performance from a quarterback and then I see it, I don't freak out about that. It's like Sam Darnold.
Sure.
I still like Sam Darnold. I knew he was going to lay an egg against New England. How could he not?
I think what's happening in Seattle to that point is I don't think Seattle is very good, but I think Russell Wilson is playing at an extremely high level. And so if he does not, if he doesn't pull rabbits out of his hat, the teams, it was like where Aaron Rodgers was there, in my opinion, 14, 15, and 16.
Yeah.
He was playing so damn well and he had nothing else.
Yeah.
That could be happening in Seattle, but they are 5-2, so.
Yeah. They're just
with
fine.
two home losses, one to Baltimore and the other to
New Orleans.
San Fran?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Okay. So
odd, but undefeated on the road of Seattle, which we'll talk about them in a little bit. Yeah, man, I think Deshaun Watson could very easily, be the MVP. I don't think as good as the Patriots are this year. I don't think that Brady is a factor yet in that MVP discussion, just because the defense is so dominant. But anyway, so yeah, Brad, I think you and I are both on Oakland. I think it's a close cover. I think you're feeling more so that Oakland +7 is going to win this game. We'll do the deep dive later in the week. I'll have a much stronger projection and a game plan for both teams. From the fantasy football point of view, Derek Carr's a fringe start. Josh Jacobs is a definite start. Terrell Williams, if he's back, is a start. And I love Waller this week as a start. For Houston, I think that Deshaun Watson's a definite start. I think Duke Johnson is better than Carlos Hyde. Duke Johnson's a start. Hyde is not. DeAndre Hopkins is a start. Kenny Stills is a start. And and Darren Fells, I think, is a borderline scoop and play. Brad, I think we're about halfway through. We'll pick up the pace here. We got Philadelphia now +2 at Buffalo. Very interesting game. That's going to be on one of my TVs.
Wow. This is a really good game, is it not?
Yep.
Yeah, this is
Philadelphia's
fantastic.
desperate. Buffalo's really solid. The teams match up well schematically and what they want to do to each other. What do you think, man?
Wow. I think that Philadelphia is at Buffalo.
Yeah.
I think this is not good for Philadelphia. I don't think it's very good for them, man. And I think Buffalo is strong. Defensively, they are strong. I saw a stat that Buffalo is 9-2 in their last 11 or something like that. And their only 2 losses are to New England twice. Something like that, right? So
Something like that.
Something like that, man. And Philadelphia, they don't have it. I don't know what the deal is. They're not consistent. They're
It's the
not
running
strong.
game. It's the running game.
They don't know who they are. They don't have an identity or something. They're just out of it. And I think Buffalo takes it, dog.
Yeah, you think Buffalo? So my computers agree with you. I think Philadelphia wins in an upset, and this is only because I think Philadelphia is the more desperate team. Buffalo didn't look great against Miami. Miami covered. That was one of the games we got right, Brad. Buffalo. I think Buffalo's the better team, but Buffalo's going to be able to stop the run. That's not what Philadelphia's trying to do anyway. No disrespect to Buffalo's defense, who I think is probably one of the top 3 defenses in the league, as well as New England and Chicago. I just think Philadelphia is just so desperate that I think they'll pull it off, and the world is down on them. The betting line's probably going to be a little bit inflated towards Buffalo, who's playing very, very well. I think Buffalo's ready for a loss, to happen, but Philadelphia, their weakness, I think they'll be able to stop the run. I think Buffalo's going to try to pass, but I don't know that. Man, this is going to be a close game. I'm hemming and hawing. I can't really even decide. I'm just going to go with my gut and say Philadelphia wins. Analytically speaking,
Good
Buffalo.
matchup, though.
Huh?
Good matchup, though.
Very good matchup. I'm looking forward to watching it. Deshaun Watson being back, hopefully, Deshaun Jackson, whether or not he's going to be back, that'll be a factor. He hasn't played in a long, long time. And Philadelphia, man, the one thing about them, about the mojo is, they have no pass rush, and their running game can't get going. And in the previous years, it's not like they've had star running backs, but they've always been able to get yardage. They can't really do anything in the running game this year. So it's going to be a close game. Philadelphia +2. I think that they're going to win anyway. Let me say this. I'm not going to bet my money on it. Don't bet your money on it. But I'd like Philadelphia in an upset, and it's purely based on just my gut and just based on Philadelphia needs to win or their season could be off. So if they don't win, to me, that's a character issue in Philadelphia. They need to win this game. They have the talent to do it. They have the coaching to do it. They need to win this game. If Buffalo pulls this off, dude, like that shows me a lot about Buffalo, and we already think that they're very good anyway. From a fantasy football point of view, do not start Wentz. Do not start the running backs. Alshon Jeffrey may be a start. Zach Ertz is being outplayed by his understudy, Dallas Goedert there. That's a concern for me. Buffalo, I'm telling you, I'm looking at the analytics here. They like Buffalo. Josh Allen's a start. Frank Gore's a start. John Brown is a start. And Cole Beasley is a fringe start, waiver play if you need somebody. All right, Brad, moving on, Brad. We have Seattle -3.5 at Atlanta. Matt Ryan is questionable at this point with a bad ankle injury.
Seattle -3.5 at Atlanta. Seattle all day, baby. Come on.
I don't care.
Come on, all day long.
I don't care who is playing. And in fact, while I got everybody here, let me just go back because that feels like that line's got to be too short. So Bovada has, once again, Seattle -3.5. NFL odds. This is riveting radio, as everybody knows. But Brad, why don't you just talk about Russell Wilson while I'm just rechecking this line?
Well, Jesus. Oh boy.
I can't stand this guy, by the way. I see him on the commercials. I just want to punch a guy in the face.
Who's that? Russell Wilson?
It is 3.5. I can't believe this line. I can't
believe it either. I can't believe it either.
I can't. So Bovada has Seattle. I mean, what else can you say? Like, Atlanta's defense can't stop anybody. Matt Ryan, regardless of if he plays or not, I don't care. If there's a chance the backup quarterback plays, that's a waltz. Seattle is undefeated on the road this year. Their only 2 losses are against good teams at home. Okay, let me just go to the daily fantasy analytics. Seattle, I have Russell Wilson is at a 29, Chris Carson at a 16, Lockett as a 17, DK Metcalf as a 14, Jacob Hollister, their new tight end there, at an 11. All of those are starts, nobody else for Seattle. For Atlanta, I have Matt Ryan as a fringe start, but his ankle injury concerns me, so I probably go away from him. Devonta Freeman, after getting kicked out of the game last week, I have him as a start. Julio Jones is tough this week, but I have him as a start every week anyway. Calvin Ridley, I think, is a start. And Mohamed Sanu, Brad, got traded to New England earlier today. I don't know if you get – this is a Tuesday morning we're recording this, so you probably didn't even see that. So Sanu is gone, so it's going to be Hardy. I mean, is there anything else to say about this game? It's got to be Seattle on a walk, right?
Unless Vegas knows something we don't, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that happens.
Happens.
They know stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, but come on, dude.
I was only 11-4 last week, so they tricked me 4 times last week. So. Yeah, Seattle all day. I'm with you.
Yeah.
At least there's one that we all emphatically agree on. Next game, Brad, we have on the list. We have Tampa Bay, according to Bovada, +2.5 at Tennessee.
Oh God, freaking Tampa. Whatever, dude. Tampa. I don't even want to talk about them. I'm so annoyed by them, man. They cost me my freaking suicide pool. Like, for 5 years now, I have no idea how to bet Tampa. I have no idea what they are.
It's Jameis Winston. You don't know when he's going to throw the 5 touchdowns or the 5 picks. That's what it is. You don't know. I'm betting against him throwing 5 touchdowns against Tennessee. Tennessee, I like much more with Ryan Tannehill in there. When Tennessee has a quarterback that can throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, or 2 to 3 touchdowns a game with this defense, with Derrick Henry. And by the way, don't forget that they have A.J. Brown and Corey Davis at receiver. It's easy to forget when Mariota was throwing the ball. Ryan Tannehill will make NFL receivers out of them. Great pickups for fantasy football, by the way. I like Tennessee in this game in a waltz. I don't think Tampa Bay can get anything going against Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to go on a run here. Get in on early. It's a great investment. Get in early on them with Tannehill kind of ascending. Now, is he gonna go without interceptions every week? No, but Tannehill under Adam Gase, Rooney. Tennessee Tannehill under Adam Gase was a Pro Bowl quarterback, took Miami Dolphins to the playoffs, although I don't think he ever got a start because I think he got injured in that season. Tannehill's, he's a better NFL quarterback. We've been seeing it all year. I'm going to go Tennessee. I feel pretty safe on that. Brad, you said Tampa Bay?
Nah, screw them. Tennessee.
Tennessee.
I'm over them, man. Come on with that team.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay, it's one of those teams they could put up 36 points and make us eat our words next week. But
for sure, they could absolutely do it, and that's why I'm so angry at them.
Yeah,
just
I know.
be like, what are you, and just be that.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
it's been 4 years of this crap, man. What kind of team are you?
Teddy Bridgewater to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be interesting next year. I think they're going to move on from Jameis Winston finally. That's what the press is saying this week.
I just want to say one thing as I move my computer.
Yeah.
Let's all slow down a little bit on how good Teddy Bridgewater is, because New Orleans is a very, very good roster, all right? And it's not like Teddy Bridgewater got put into the Jaguars or something, right? It's a very, very strong team.
True.
So let's all just slow down on his magnificence.
Well, he was good in Minnesota too, though.
Was he good?
Well, he was okay.
Was he good?
I mean, his record says he is.
Right. All right. He's got a good record.
Yeah.
All right. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, Tennessee. Fantasy-wise, Jameis Winston, I'm just not – I mean, I have him as a fringe start anyway. I'm not hanging my coat on that hanger. Let's see. I think Ronald Jones does better than Barber. Ronald Jones is a start. Godwin's a start. Mike Evans is a fringe start. I think it's a tough matchup for Tennessee. Tannehill is a fringe start. I think he's a daily fantasy play, though. I think he'll do better. Derrick Henry's a start. Corey Davis and A.J. Brown are starts this week, as well as Delaney Walker if he's healthy. If not, Jonnu Smith. I like this tight end for Tennessee. Hey, Brad, let me go unlock my door. I'll be right back.
You got it.
All right, buddy.
Cool.
So we have, because I need to leave the house in about 18 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 5 games, so that's actually probably perfect timing.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Okay, Brad, so let's swing it over. We have Carolina, according to Bovada, +6 at San Francisco. Carolina coming off the bye week.
I'm sorry, I completely missed that.
Carolina +6 at San Francisco. Carolina coming off the bye week.
Oh, I think San Francisco wins by 7, man. I think they're really strong. I think Carolina has their first loss with their new guy. Yeah, I think that's, if the spread was Carolina's 7.5 point underdog, I'd take them. But I got to go San Fran on this one.
Yeah, and maybe later in the week it'll be bet up to that. I actually have Carolina losing in a close game. Here's what I think. I think and my analytics, by the way, Brad, unanimously agree with you. They like San Francisco quite a bit in this game. And here's the thing. I'm always talking about like pass rush. I always talk about how I like San Francisco so much because they can run and because they can pass. I mean, they control both lines of scrimmage, and when you can do that, you're going to win a lot of football games, as San Francisco is. So Carolina, I always look at teams that can neutralize that. And we talked a little bit about Arizona and New Orleans. New Orleans' defensive line can control the line of scrimmage in the passing game, but Arizona throws quick passes, so it kind of neutralizes that pass rush a bit. For the San Francisco 49ers, same kind of thing, but I think Christian McCaffrey's the X factor here. I think that his ability to catch screen passes out of the backfield is going to be tough for San Francisco to match up with. I think Kyle Allen throws a ball control, quick pass game. So I think we're going to see San Francisco crash up on the receivers. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Now, on the other side, Carolina does a really good job on their defensive line. So I don't think that they're going to be run over as well as San Francisco's been running over people so far. I think this is actually San Francisco's probably toughest matchup of the year. And I emphasize matchup because I don't think it's their toughest game, but or at least the best team that they've played. But I think Carolina's their toughest matchup so far. Carolina's not a bad team. That defensive line is going to limit how good the running game is. So it's going to be like Garoppolo versus Allen. Now, I still think San Francisco wins. I think it's a closer than comfortable game for San Francisco. So I'm going to take those 6 points, and I'm going to hope that Vegas comes out and bets that line up to 7.5, like you said, Brad. But matchup-wise, I just think schematically here, Christian McCaffrey's that X factor, and they're going to run that. They're going to commit to the run, and then that defensive line's going to be chasing in the screen game. You're going to see Bosa running down, and he's going to do a good job of doing it. But over the course of 4 quarters, 60 minutes of football, I think this thing gets a little close. But San Francisco in a close victory, Carolina to cover. From a fantasy football point of view, Christian McCaffrey's the start, and I don't like anybody else. That's how much I think of San Francisco. For San Francisco, I like both running backs. When I say both, I mean Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida. Deebo Samuel is questionable. I think you can start Kittle, but it's actually schematic or analytically telling me that Carolina's defense is good too. So, my eye test and my computers kind of line up. Although my computers do like San Francisco, I like Carolina in a sliver to cover that spread, but San Francisco to win. All right, Brad, we have 4 games left now. Fun game. Definitely will be on my TV. I'm sure it'll be on yours as well. Cleveland, Brad, plus 13. Cleveland plus 13 at New England.
Oh, New England for sure. For sure, dude. Look, if it was 14.5, I might question it for a second. 13. This is going to be Baker Mayfield's worst day as a pro. Worst day. 100%, man. Come on.
I agree with you 100%. I wrote actually.
Bill Belichick is gonna want to destroy this team by 42.
He wants to destroy every team by 42, yes, but I think particularly this one.
Yes, I think this week, he's might have like an extra little bit, like, oh damn, we're gonna have some fun with this, right? Yeah. And we're just gonna pile it on, and we're gonna pile it on.
I don't see how Cleveland. I'm big on matchups. I don't see how Cleveland matches up. They're gonna. The Chubb. I've been talking about Chubb and him being really the focal point and should be the focal point of this offense. Cleveland's been moving forward, and I'm not down on Cleveland, but Cleveland does not match up well with New England. We've been talking about this. I think even Colin Cowherd. We've been talking about the first 8 games for Cleveland all year long. This is, I think, the worst of it. And after this, I think things get a lot better for Cleveland.
It lightens up, right? Who do they have after that?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have the schedule out there, but it lights up considerably.
It lightens up for them, for sure. It had a tough first half for them.
This is going to be I think this could be the toughest defense that Baker Mayfield plays in his entire career. It's just, I'm not saying up to this point. I'm saying when we look back in history, this could be the hardest matchup for Baker Mayfield.
I mean, I think he throws 3 picks.
Yeah, I think New England.
I do.
I think New England forces the picks. I think I heard a stat today that Baker Mayfield was 55% passing at this point in terms of completion percentage. New England's going to shut down Chubb. They know it. They know that Chubb has to run to make this team go. You're going to have Odell Beckham matched up single coverage against probably one of the McCourties or something like that, which favors Cleveland, but Baker has to get him the ball. I think, I could see Odell Beckham getting 1 long touchdown grab, maybe even 2, but I still don't think that this is going to be enough to knock off this Patriots team. Patriots are just going to run the ball all over the Cleveland. And I like Cleveland's defensive line. I like Cleveland's defense, but not against the Patriots, man. I think this is a Patriots waltz. My computers agree. We agree. I think there's 2 right now, Seattle and New England, that we both agree, and my computers line up so well on as well. Fantasy point of view, I think Baker Mayfield is a sit. I think Chubb is a start just because of volume. And I think Odell Beckham, this is more of a kind of a gut and game plan kind of thing. I think Odell Beckham will get in the end zone, but I don't think he'll have a lot of catches and yards. Now, for New England, I think Brady's a start. Michel and James White are starts. I don't love the receivers except for I think Phillip Dorsett has a huge game this week, and I don't like tight end there. So there you go. 3 games left. We have Denver, Brad, according to Bovada, plus 6 at Indianapolis.
Denver is plus 6 at Indianapolis. I like Indianapolis for sure, and I have to eat crow because when Andrew Luck retired, I thought, how the hell are they going to rebound from this? How are they even going to survive? But they're stronger than I assumed, man, and Brissett looks pretty damn good.
Brissett's looking awesome. He's looking awesome.
Yeah, Brissett's looking awesome, and he's balling, and I think they win. I think they win by at least 7.
Yeah, I actually have this as a 7-point game as well, so I'm taking Indianapolis. My computer's a little bit split. It's a little bit higher of a line than I want, but Indianapolis, I've been saying it for a couple weeks. They're building what I call a program there. It's a next man up. They have strength everywhere. They're not going to wow you, and I think that's why they've been a little underrated in Vegas. They don't wow you with anything, but they're good at everything. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. I do think they're a playoff team. I think that game that we saw against Houston, that's kind of how I thought it would go last week. Not to say Houston can't knock them off the next time that they play anyway. I think this AFC South, man, I like all the teams, man. They're all feisty. And Indianapolis, I think, is my favorite at the moment. And Brissett, man, he's just getting better and better. And I think Frank Reich is, a candidate for Coach of the Year. I really do. He's very, very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah, man. Fantasy-wise, Flacco's a sit. Lindsey's a start. Freeman's a sit. I like Cortland Sutton and Emmanuel Sanders, nobody else. For Indianapolis, Brissett, I actually having a tough game. I have him as a sit this week. I do like Mack, and I actually like Naheem Hines. I think they're going to attack Denver with the screen game. T.Y. Hilton's a start. And you got to start paying more attention to Eric Ebron, everybody. He's on way too many people's or waiver wires. He catches a lot of touchdown passes. All right, Brad, 2 games left. We have Green Bay, according to Bovada, -5.5 at Kansas City without Patrick Mahomes now.
I may be attending this one, by the way.
Oh, okay.
I'm figuring that out today. I think Green Bay, I mean, it's about time I start becoming a believer. I think they can win this game for sure. Without Mahomes and Matt Moore, and I actually don't think it could be a problem for them. There is one thing, is that Andy Reid is a fantastic coach, so he can probably scheme very well, but I don't think that they have the talent without Mahomes.
Yeah.
It's because their defense is not that great, right? So
yeah. I agree. Now, Kansas City's defense really stepped up against Denver. They have, I guess, the extra rest, and that's nice. So they're coming in with some confidence. But without Mahomes, and no, I mean, Moore is okay as a quarterback, but he's just okay as a quarterback.
He's a backup quarterback.
He is a backup quarterback, like a serviceable backup, but a backup nonetheless. They have great talent, but Kansas City, look, I'm not freaking out on Kansas City about this thing. We actually, Brad, that was one of our pick 6 picks. We won it in spite of Mahomes going out early. I like the Packers and by 10 in this game. I still like Kansas City, but even with Tyreek Hill and just name all that, Travis Kelce, their running game doesn't really get going. Green Bay's defense is good. I think Tyreek Hill will get behind the Green Bay defense, once, maybe even twice this game.
They do have stellar wide receivers.
Yeah,
they have a lot of speed, right?
But you're looking at it. To me, it's like Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams will be able to run against Kansas City's defense, and they still have Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to take the quarterback. LaFleur is a little bit better of a head coach, I think, than I thought, and I didn't even think he was bad or anything. I've been impressed with him.
He's been really impressive, man.
Yeah.
He's solid.
Yeah, I think it's Green Bay here. I think it's Green Bay fairly safely. So you and I agreed on that.
Kansas City is a tough place to play, though. That's why I want to go.
They lost to Indianapolis at home.
Yeah,
and they lost. Who was the other game that they lost? Houston. I think Houston came in and beat them at home. So they have lost. It is a tough place, one of the hardest places to play in the whole league. But I just think with Mahomes, now if Mahomes was in there, I'd probably lean towards Kansas City to win the game. But with him out, man, you got to go with Green Bay. I mean, one-loss team. They handled business against Oakland. They're a good team, man. 2 good teams playing. I just wish that Mahomes, we would have gotten Mahomes versus Rodgers. It's a bummer.
But he is out, right?
Yeah, he's out. He's out. They're talking about holding him out potentially. He's questionable, I think, this week. I can't remember if he's actually been ruled out or not. But the latest actual press I've heard is that they'll probably keep him out until December 1st. But there's nothing to say that he might not come in and play. So we'll see. But anyway, fantasy-wise, I have Rodgers as a start. I have Aaron Jones as a definite start. Jamal Williams as a fringe start. Devontae Adams, we'll see what happens. I have him as a start. If he doesn't, then Marquez Valdes-Scantling as a start. And nobody really else for Green Bay. For Kansas City, I would have said Mahomes as a start, but it's Matt Moore. I'm not going to start him. Maybe I roll him into some daily fantasy budget lineups or something like that just because of the potential of the offense, but I don't start him in fantasy. I think McCoy over Williams, if you're going to start either one of these guys. Tyreek Hill was projected to have a huge game. I still think he'll get in the end zone. Sammy Watkins is questionable. Sammy Watkins doesn't play, maybe you want to look at Demarcus Robinson or McCole Hardman. But Travis Kelce should match up pretty well against this Green Bay defense. And Matt Moore playing, they're going to want to hit some passes to the running backs and the tight ends, some short stuff. So just to set up that over-the-top stuff to Tyreek Hill. So those are play starts as well. Last game of the week, Brad, Monday Night Football. According to Bovada, Miami plus 14.5 at Pittsburgh.
Whew. Did Pittsburgh not play last weekend?
A bye week, yep.
They had a bye week. They haven't looked that great, have they? I like Miami to cover this one.
14. I don't see why Pittsburgh's get.
Yeah.
So the line last week for Buffalo Miami was Miami plus 17. I've been saying Miami, they're a bad team, but they're not as bad. They're not as bad as Cincinnati. And I feel like if Cincinnati was going in there, that line, and I think it was early in the season, would have been like 10, Miami's not that bad. Pittsburgh wins this game, I think. And this is an upset candidate for me. Like Miami gave Buffalo some issues. Fitzpatrick, sometimes he can be good. You remember him walking out in Deshaun Jackson's outfit last year after a really nice Monday Night Football game.
He's had moments, dude.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I think this offense is a little better with Fitzpatrick. 14.5 is way too much for me. I'm actually heavy on Miami's side. My analytics like Pittsburgh, but I think this is a different Miami team, so I'm going to ignore the analytics this week. I like Miami. 14.5, that's too much. It's 2 touchdowns, more than 2 touchdowns. I don't see it. From a fantasy point of view, I don't start a single Miami Dolphin. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think you start James Conner assuming he's playing, and you start Juju Smith-Schuster, and I actually don't like anybody else. I think this is maybe a 3-point victory for Pittsburgh. And Miami, like I said, could actually win this game outright. If I had more stones, I would take Miami in the upset, but I will take them in the cover. Miami plus 14.5 will take that. So there you go, Brad. There's an episode. There's a full week. Brad and I will be back with the Pick Six podcast. I'm looking to see what we agree on. Probably not a lot. Brad and I are going to have to put our heads together. But we do agree, I know, so far on the Chargers plus 4 over the Bears, the Seattle Seahawks minus 3.5 at Atlanta, Cleveland. I'm sorry, we're on New England minus 13 hosting Cleveland. And we also agree on Indianapolis minus 6, Green Bay minus 5.5 at Kansas City. Now Miami plus 14. So we actually do agree on a lot. I just don't love the games because of the lines. They're so big. The Rams, Brad, we agreed minus 13 hosting Cincinnati. Yeah, so we have some games to pick from. We'll put our heads together. We'll be back later in the week. Make sure you watch that. Brad and I, at this point, are at 59.5%, so we're at that 60% that we market. You can go back and watch all our episodes. We'll prove it. I was, I'm probably somewhere close to like 30-6, 30-10, something like that the last 3 weeks. So I've been on fire, but I don't have a ton of confidence, but I do like a couple of games a lot. So
you have been on fire, my man. Good for you.
Been on fire. This is how it went the last 5 years. I've been tracking my analytics. I get on fire in about week 5 through about week 14. So hopefully we keep it going and we win our audience some money. So there you go. There's an episode. We'll be back and catch everybody soon. Go out, make some bets, get paid.